I'm happy to be here to testify about improving the Paperwork Reduction Act for small businesses. I actually have had the pleasure, is it loud enough yet? I have had the pleasure of testifying before this committee before, but this is the first time as OIRA Administrator. And I want to assure you that I do share your commitment to reducing the regulatory and paperwork burdens that America's small businesses confront daily. And I appreciate the opportunity to explore new approaches to advancing this important goal. Small entrepreneurs are the engine of economic growth in America. They represent over 99% of all employers and provide 60 to 80% of net new jobs, yet they bear disproportionate burdens when it comes to paperwork and regulatory activity. OIRA, along with SBA's Office of Advocacy and other federal agencies, is working both to minimize unnecessary burdens and to help America's small businesses comply with regulatory and paperwork requirements. As you both have mentioned, my office has an important role in the Paperwork Reduction Act. It was the PRA that created OIRA back in 1980. And reauthorizations of the Act in 1985 and 1995, as well as the Small Business Paperwork Relief Act of 2002, have further enhanced OIRA's role in eliminating unnecessary, duplicative, and unjustified paperwork burdens, particularly on small entities. And these goals remain high priorities for my office. Through OIRA's day-to-day review of agency information collection requests, we seek to ensure that agencies reduce the paperwork burdens associated with existing collections of information and impose the least burden necessary when they issue new collections of information. Motivated by the PRA and the SBPRA requirements, federal agencies have taken a number of steps over the past several years to reduce the amount of information they collect from small businesses and to ease their compliance burdens. Nonetheless, as you both mentioned, we continue to see paperwork burdens grow. The government-wide PRA burden increased more than 8% in fiscal year 2006. I strongly support the PRA's goal of reducing government reporting burdens while improving the management of agency information resources. I generally believe it is having a positive effect. However, there may be things we can do both administratively and legislatively to improve it further. We face two challenges. They're all divided into two categories. One involves streamlining the method of collection to ease the burden, particularly on small businesses. And the other involves reducing the amount of information being collected. So to address the first challenge, agencies have worked to simplify and redesign forms, and they're relying more on technology and e-commerce to streamline reporting. SBA's Business Gateway Initiative, a result of the SBPRA Task Force recommendations, offers small businesses a single access point to federal regulatory and paperwork compliance resources. For example, business.gov is an innovative, search-focused website where businesses can access up-to-date regulatory and paperwork compliance information and save time doing so. We've also made some progress on the second challenge, reducing the amount of information. The IRS is responsible for over 75% of the federal government's total reporting burden. Recently, its Office of Taxpayer Burden Reduction launched an initiative to reduce burden on small business taxpayers who owe $1,000 or less in employment tax by allowing them to file those ET returns as well as pay taxes due on an annual rather than a quarterly basis. IRS estimates this change will reduce reporting burdens by 30 million hours annually. Despite efforts such as these, agency implementation of new statutes has continued to increase paperwork burdens. In each session of Congress, laws are passed that create new programs for federal agencies to implement, and quite frequently new agency demands for information. This is the biggest challenge we face in trying to minimize paperwork burdens, in large part because there are real trade-offs associated with these new collections. For example, third-party disclosure requirements such as nutrition labeling on food imposes burdens, but may be the most effective and least intrusive method of protecting consumers. Surveys and other information collection may improve the design and enforcement of regulations, making them more effective and less burdensome in the long run. Nevertheless, it would be valuable for legislators as they draft new legislation to consider the paperwork implementations of alternative proposals, particularly as they affect small entities. For OIRA's part, we will continue to work with agencies such as IRS and EPA, which impose paperwork burdens that are particularly demanding for small businesses, minimize the burden, and maximize the utility of information collected. I look forward to discussing these further with you and other ideas that you may have for the effectiveness of the PRA.